Welcome to Histoscope. Today we have a gripping story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Imagine this. You're at the airport, excited for your trip, when suddenly, security finds something suspicious in your bag. You know it's not yours, but no one believes you. What would you do if you were falsely accused of a crime you didn't commit? That's exactly what happened to Mrs. Mildred Turner, a well-dressed woman in her 60s, who found herself at the center of an airport scandal. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking tale of deception, betrayal, and justice. But before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories. Now, let's get started. It was a bright Tuesday morning at Harrisburg International Airport in Pennsylvania. The sun streamed through the large glass windows, casting a golden glow on the busy terminal. Travelers hurried by, dragging their suitcases, while the sounds of boarding announcements and distant chatter filled the air. Among them was Mrs. Mildred Turner, a stylish woman in her early 60s, waiting patiently for her flight to Los Angeles. Dressed in a stunning deep green dress that complemented her elegant gold jewelry, Mildred carried herself with poise and grace. She believed in looking her best, no matter the occasion, and today was no exception. With her neatly styled hair and warm smile, she was the kind of woman who turned heads, not because she demanded attention, but because she exuded sophistication and kindness. As she sat in the lounge area, adjusting her small black leather handbag, a man nearby took notice. Kevin Price, a friendly-looking man in his mid-30s, approached with an easy smile. His blue eyes twinkled as he complimented her jewelry. "You have a lovely sense of style, ma'am," he said, his voice warm and inviting. Mildred, flattered by the unexpected attention, thanked him kindly. She wasn't used to strangers striking up conversations like this, but Kevin's polite charm put her at ease. As they chatted, he shared stories about his grandmother, making Mildred laugh with his wit and nostalgia. He seemed like a well-mannered young man, helpful, respectful, and kind. Little did she know, this friendly encounter was about to take a shocking turn. Kevin continued to charm Mildred with his friendly conversation, admiring her elegant taste in jewelry. "Not many people appreciate a classic look these days," he said, nodding toward her sparkling gold accessories. Mildred smiled, touched by the compliment. "Well, I believe in always looking your best," she replied warmly. She found his manners refreshing. He reminded her of her own son, Martin, a well-respected businessman. As their conversation flowed effortlessly, Kevin seemed genuinely interested in her life, asking about her travels and sharing fond memories of his grandmother. Mildred enjoyed the pleasant company, grateful for the friendly exchange. As they stood to head toward the security checkpoint, Kevin noticed her adjusting her carry-on and small black leather handbag. "Let me help you with that," he offered, reaching out to take the bag. Mildred hesitated for only a second before handing it to him with a thankful nod. "Such a gentleman," she said with a chuckle. Kevin laughed modestly and walked beside her, still engaging her in light-hearted conversation. But as they neared the checkpoint, something about him changed, just slightly. His gaze darted around the terminal, his cheerful tone softened, and his grip on her bag lingered for a moment too long before returning it to her. Mildred, caught up in their conversation, didn't notice the subtle shift in his demeanor. She had no idea that this seemingly kind stranger had just set her up for a nightmare she never saw coming. As Mildred placed her belongings on the conveyor belt, she expected nothing more than a routine security check. She walked through the metal detector, offering a polite smile to the officers, but her ease quickly faded when one of them pulled her black leather handbag aside for further inspection. Mildred watched, puzzled, as the officer carefully unzipped it, his expression turning serious. Then, he held up a small plastic bag filled with a white powdery substance. "Ma'am, what is this?" the officer asked sternly, his eyes locking onto hers. Mildred's heart pounded. She stared at the bag in shock, her mouth dry. I don't know, she stammered. That's not mine. But her insistence did little to convince the officers. Their faces remained unreadable, but their silence spoke volumes. Around her, the airport buzz faded as travelers turned to watch the unfolding scene. She could hear murmurs, people whispering assumptions, judging her expensive outfit, her jewelry, as if they were clues to some hidden criminal intent. Tears welled in her eyes as fear gripped her. "Please, you have to believe me," she pleaded, her voice breaking. But the officers remained unmoved. One of them gestured for her to step aside as another radioed for backup. Panic set in. This couldn't be happening. How had that bag gotten into her purse? And worse, how would she prove her innocence? Desperate, Mildred grasped at the only lifeline she had. "Please, let me make one phone call," she begged. The officers exchanged glances before reluctantly nodding. With trembling hands, she dialed her son, Martin Turner, an executive at Swiftline Airlines. The moment he answered, her composure shattered. "Martin, honey, I'm in trouble," she choked out. "They found something in my bag. Something I didn't put there. Please, can you come?" On the other end, Martin's voice was calm but urgent. "Stay right there, Mom. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Mildred clutched the phone, barely holding back tears. She could only hope that her son would arrive in time to save her from this nightmare. Within minutes, the rhythmic sound of dress shoes echoed through the terminal as Martin Turner arrived, his sharp navy blue suit and Swiftline Airlines badge catching the light. He moved with quiet authority, his face composed, but his eyes sharp with concern. The security officers, noticing his professional demeanor, exchanged glances. They recognized him, or at least, they recognized the power his position carried. "Thank you for allowing my mother to call me," Martin said, his voice steady but firm. He placed a reassuring hand on Mildred's shoulder, sensing her trembling. "I can personally vouch for her integrity. But if there's any doubt, I request that we review the security footage. If something ended up in her bag, I want to see how it got there." The officers hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Follow us," one of them said, leading the way toward the surveillance room. Mildred clung to Martin's arm, her relief battling the lingering fear in her chest. As they walked, her mind raced. What if there was no evidence? What if no one believed her? As they entered the dimly lit surveillance room, the monitors flickered, displaying multiple angles of the terminal. One of the officers pulled up the footage from the security checkpoint and rewound to the moments before Mildred's bag was flagged. The room fell silent as everyone turned their eyes to the screen. Mildred held her breath, praying the truth would reveal itself. The screen flickered as the footage played, showing Mildred and Kevin Price chatting near the waiting area. At first, everything seemed normal. Kevin smiled warmly, engaging her in conversation. But then, with a swift, almost imperceptible movement, he slipped his hand into Mildred's black leather handbag and carefully placed something inside. It happened so quickly that if they hadn't been looking for it, they might have missed it. Gasps filled the room as the officers leaned in, their expressions shifting from suspicion to shock. The truth was undeniable. Mildred had been framed. The very man who had charmed her with his kindness had planted the incriminating bag while she was too distracted to notice. Mildred covered her mouth, a mix of relief and horror washing over her. I can't believe it," she whispered. "He seemed so polite." Martin clenched his fists, his jaw tightening with anger. "Where is he now?" he demanded. One of the officers quickly checked the flight logs. "He boarded a plane to Los Angeles about 15 minutes ago," he confirmed. Without hesitation, they radioed ahead, alerting authorities at LAX to detain Kevin as soon as he landed. Mildred exhaled shakily, the weight of the false accusations lifting from her shoulders. but the thought of how close she had come to disaster still sent chills down her spine. Kevin had almost ruined her life, but now justice was on its way. Hours later, as Kevin Price's flight touched down at Los Angeles International Airport, he casually strolled off the plane, unaware that his freedom was about to vanish. As he stepped into the terminal, a group of uniformed officers was already waiting for him. "Kevin Price?" one of them called out. Before he could react, they moved in, securing his wrists in handcuffs. Passengers around him gasped, some whispering in shock. Just a few hours ago, Kevin had been the charming, friendly traveler engaging in light-hearted conversation. Now he was being led away by police, his confident demeanor replaced by a look of cold realization. His scheme had failed. Back at Harrisburg International Airport, Mildred sat beside Martin in the terminal lounge, still trying to steady her nerves. Though the security footage had cleared her name, the experience had shaken her to the core. "I just can't believe someone would do that to me," she murmured, staring down at her trembling hands. "He seemed so kind." Martin placed a reassuring hand over hers. "It's over now, Mom," he said gently. "They caught him. He's going to pay for what he did." Mildred let out a long breath, the tension finally easing from her shoulders. Though the ordeal had been terrifying, she knew she was lucky. Lucky to have a son who believed in her. Lucky that the truth had come to light. She looked at Martin with gratitude. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Martin smiled and squeezed her hand. "You'll never have to find out." This story serves as a powerful reminder. Not everyone who seems kind has good intentions. Mildred learned that the hard way, but thankfully, justice was served. While she's relieved to be free from suspicion, she now carries a newfound caution. Never again will she be so trusting with a stranger. Have you ever had a close call at the airport? Maybe a moment where something just didn't feel right? Share your story in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fascinating stories. Stay tuned. Our next story might just surprise you.